In 1993, Calvin Broadus, aka Snoop Dogg, was charged with first-degree murder after a member of a rival gang was shot and killed by his bodyguard, Mckinley Lee. Mckinley fired shots from Snoop's car. So how did Snoop find himself with a murder charge, despite being one of the biggest selling rappers at the time? It was recently announced that 50 Cent is producing a series about Snoop's arrest and trial for first-degree murder called Murder Was the Case. Snoop said, "I'm very excited to finally tell the story of Murder Was the Case. This was a pivotal moment in my life and career, and I've deliberately waited until I found the right partner to bring this to the screen. You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge." This was a huge trial at the time. MTV covered it, and the courtroom scenes and verdict were on camera. At the time, Snoop had just released his debut album, which was climbing up the charts. Of course, the publicity of the trial did a lot for the sales of his music. The album went on to sell over 5 million copies. One of the most popular songs on the album was Murder Was the Case, which was also turned into a short film. Snoop had brushes with the law at an early age. He was arrested for a lot of charges related to drug possession. His drug charges led to repeated stints in prison. Going to prison at such a young age was of course a setback, but it's where he started to write music, writing about his issues and his troubles that he faced every day. He started off making music with Warren G and Nate Dogg. They were in the group 213. They gatecrashed a party where Dr. Dre was going to be and managed to get him to listen to one of their tapes. But the label was mainly interested in Snoop. It was disappointing for the others, but they encouraged him to go for it. And the rest is history. Of course, the others went on to be successful too, so it all worked out. Snoop was represented by Johnny Cochran, legendary defense attorney, known for representing O.J. Simpson and Michael Jackson. In an interview with Cam Capone News, Snoop's former bodyguard, Mckinley, described the events that led up to that fateful night. An altercation ensued outside Snoop's apartment in Los Angeles one summer afternoon between gang members and Sean Abrams, Snoop's friend. We heard some commotion downstairs, and I'm thinking, I know Snoop didn't go outside without me. So I heard some drama. Immediately, I grabbed my gun, and I'm getting downstairs because I heard some drama. But as I was going down the stairs, Snoop is behind me. I stop at the end of the stairs, and I see a guy leaning out of a car. He can't see me, and he's just barking back and forth with one of the guys. Mckinley saw that the guy had a gun, and it was poking out of the car window. But Snoop was safely inside, and the guy hadn't spotted him, so he made Snoop go back upstairs and didn't see any further danger. Thinking that was the end of it, Mckinley and Snoop decided to make a trip to the studio to continue work on his debut album. Snoop was driving, but remembered he had forgotten a recording device. Remember, this was the early 90s, so artists and producers carried around a lot of equipment.
So at that time, there was no threat. Snoop was right here. It wasn't anything. It was just real quick. So I immediately take off and I get Snoop upstairs. So we rush him upstairs. I'm trying to calm everybody down. The situation was diffused. So now it's time to, we got to get back to the studio, actually get to the studio. And so as we get in the truck and we start going down the road, somebody hit, hey man, we forgot the DAT player. I'm like, we forgot the DAT player. The DAT player at the time was a recording device that we were using to record the music on the hard drive. It was all the music was held on the DAT player.
Snoop made a U-turn and headed back towards the apartment. They saw someone standing in the middle of the street, trying to flag them down. The person explained something about one of the guys needing medication.
But as we're coming down the road, we see somebody in the middle of the street kind of flagging us down. And I remember the guy leaning out of the back seat, but I remember the front seat dude, he was like a heavy set guy. He had a heavy set face, so I remember that. It was a quick scan. I remember that face and the guy. And so he's flagging us down the middle of the street, so Snoop kind of pulls over. He's like, hey man, I'm sorry dog, it's my fault. Man, I remember him saying he just didn't take his medicine, he was tripping, I'm sorry. I remember that to this day. He didn't take his medicine. We'll come to find out that he was diabetic, right? And then, unfortunately, sometimes now that I know that with the diabetes and possibly drinking and all these other things, you become agitated and you do other things, right? And after all of this, I realized that may have prompted him to the things that he did and why he reached and all that. I don't know. I'm looking for answers myself.
Because before they knew it, a guy emerged from the bushes. Mckinley noticed that the bushes were fluttering, and out pops a gangbanger. Philip Little Smooth would marry him. Mckinley tried to approach him, but was pushed away. Then he said the guy lifted up his shirt and exposed a gun. Then he reached for it. When I saw him start to reach, that's when I took my gun and I fired. There was like a little incline. My hope was I wanted to hit him in the lower part of his body. So as I'm aiming, he's turning, and as I'm aiming here, I fire. When he was turning, he got hit in the hip and in the shoulder blade. Unfortunately, the one that went through his hip went through him and his shoulder. He takes off and he runs. We find out that when he ran, he dropped about 50 or 75 yards away. He dropped right there, and that's unfortunately when he died. Snoop's bodyguard, Mckinley, regretted killing Little Smooth, but it was his job to defend his client, and clearly there was a threat. They called the authorities, and their lawyers advised them to wait for legal advice before doing anything. But in the meantime, Little Smooth's friend scooped up the gun. So when the police arrived on the scene, it was nowhere to be found. So it looked like they had killed an unarmed man. After we made the call, we had to wait for our attorneys. So the next day, they came, and that's when we were going to turn ourselves in. We didn't turn ourselves in the next day. We had to wait. So we waited until everything calmed down. Snoop and Mckinley did end up turning themselves in, but they still went to the 1993 MTV Video Music Awards. Snoop was at the MTV VMAs, and they came to arrest him. I wasn't. So I had to wait until everything died down, and that's when we decided it was best. Police had already known what was going on, because we said we were going to turn ourselves in. Mckinley and Snoop were both charged with first-degree murder and headed to trial in 1995, where it was eventually discovered that Little Smooth's friend, Jason London, had hidden the gun. Both Snoop and Mckinley were acquitted on February the 20th, 1996. When you look back at footage of the verdict, it's obvious that Snoop is overwhelmed with relief. After the acquittal, he vowed to stop rapping about murder and glorifying gang violence. On my second album, The Dogfather, when I beat my murder case, I redirected my pen to write life, because I felt like I had wrote death all up until that point. When I started writing The Dogfather, I lost a lot of fans. I lost a lot of homies, because they wanted me to keep it gangster after beating the murder case. They wanted me to glamorize and glorify, but I was like, somebody's life was lost. My life was changed. This is a real situation. So apparently some fans were disappointed with his new direction, but the album reached #1 on Billboard and in the R&B charts, selling around 2 million copies. Nowhere as much as the first, but I'm sure he was thankful to not be facing a murder charge with this album. During Snoop's trial, other artists appeared to show their support, including Devontae Swing, Tupac Shakur, MC Hammer, and of course, Suge Knight. Editor-in-Chief of Rap Pages magazine, Sheena Lester, said, "We mourn for the Wilder Mariams, but we're thrilled that Snoop won't be going to jail. Snoop is a kind and gentle brother. I hope this trial taught people that there is nothing glamorous about gangsterism. I hope that it helps people to separate the music, which is cool, from the reality, which is not. Do you think the music can be separated from the reality? After all, many rappers live out the same fate as the stories they portray in their music. The case really highlighted the debate of whether gangster rap contributed to gang violence, drug abuse, mistreatment of women, and other destructive pursuits. Or was it simply a reflection of what went on in real life? According to the verdict, Snoop's bodyguard was acting in self-defense. Despite his acquittal, I'm sure the trial was a wake-up call for him to cut off all gang affiliations and focus more on being a recording artist. Not many street dudes get the same opportunity. He came so close to losing everything, all for a lifestyle that leads to nothing but prison or death. Speaking of the new project, 50 Cent said, "Murder Was the Case is an incredible story. Snoop had the biggest album in the country and was fighting for his freedom in the courtroom. The only place to go on this incredible ride is with G-Unit Film and Television. I'm excited to be working with Snoop to bring it to television." Today, as well as a rapper, Snoop is an entrepreneur and a TV personality. He famously partnered with fellow convicted felon Martha Stewart, filming Martha's and Snoop's potluck dinner party. He has his own production company and a legal cannabis business. Will you be watching 50 Cent's new series based on Snoop's infamous trial when it is finally filmed and released? They are currently looking for writers, so we'll see how it progresses. Thanks for watching. Share your thoughts below, like and subscribe for weekly videos, and don't forget to click the bell for more.